First of all, hi everyone. Today we are talking about tokenized metals and gold, silver, and how they are moving from traditional markets into on-chain and DeFi, and how you can not only hold them but also earn on them. And today we have Oro Gold project, and Usman is a representative here. And from Dominion we have Mark, and from Ayni Gold we have Daniel. So first of all, I want to hear a quick intro from everyone. So who you are, what you are building, which metal you focus on, and one sentence on the main problem you are solving. So Mark, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. How you doing? I'm Mark, founder of Dominion. We are launching tokenized silver on Solana. I guess the biggest problem with metals is owning the physical is quite illiquid. Buying and selling it is quite tough when you own the actual physical. So that's one challenge we're solving. Silver held in a vault.
Awesome, thanks. Daniel.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Daniel Tschinkel, CTO of Ayni Gold. And what we're doing is basically we tokenized a gold mine in Peru, and we provide access to everybody around the globe into an asset class or a way of participating in that asset class that is quite unique. And by providing a token, which gives you access, or a gold unit that gives you access to the gold mine and the proceeds of it. And yeah, this is basically what we're doing.
Amazing, thank you. And Usman, let's talk about Oro Gold.
Hi everyone, my name is Usman. I'm the founder of Oro. We're bringing productive gold on chain, so we allow users to buy gold, but also earn a yield on top of it. And we're now looking and expanding to other different gold adjacent businesses and yields.
Okay, thank you. So now let's start with the bigger picture. So, in your opinion, why are tokenized metals gaining attention right now in 2026, or maybe like in late 2025? What has changed compared to the first wave of tokenized commodities a few years ago? Usman, what do you see from your side?
I think you know, number one is obviously the most obvious piece, right? Which is metals have gone through an insane rally, um, which means that there's a lot of interest on it. And at the same time, behaviors on chain of crypto native traders have also evolved from moving from sort of, I would say, alt assets or meme coins into RWAs, and which includes tokenized gold and tokenized stocks. And so I think both those things, alongside there just being more avenues to purchase the asset, alongside there just being more liquidity on this asset, have made these assets more attractive. And also, the fact that a lot of these different wallets in your banks are now targeting users in emerging markets who actually have always traditionally wanted access to these assets but have not been able to. I think that's kind of, I would say, the tipping point.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes sense, and I totally agree with you that there are like the overall user experience now is much better. And Mark, what is your opinion? And you focus on silver, so what's your point of view here?
Yeah, I think there's a greater understanding about RWAs in general, tokenization in general. I also think the crypto market over the last, say, 5 years, um, is kind of educated people that they need more diversity in their portfolio. They can't just buy altcoins and hope that they go up in value in a 4 year cycle. So I think that's bringing attention to RWAs. And then also there's a massive amount of capital flowing in to the RWA space, not just on Solana, but Solana's capturing a lot of the tokenized stocks right now, for example. And I think it's just education, people understanding not only how they buy these assets on chain, but how they use them across DeFi as well. Making them composable is really attractive right now.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And Daniel, what's your opinion on this?
So I agree, of course, with everything that was just said. I would say that by now, the first wave of tokenized assets was inherently backing something one to one, And I think we're breaking that up a little bit now so that the users are able to experience being having the access to assets that before they couldn't. In our case, of course, for example, okay, having access to a gold mine is quite unique. So from that perspective, I think RWAs in general are going to be able to provide access to investors around the globe to in all kinds of different areas, which before that would not have been possible. And I think everybody's looking kind of a diversification, but also the possibility to capitalize, but also to have liquid markets around that they're able to basically transact in a very fast manner. And these are assets that enable that. And I think everybody needs something now that is tied to something real. We don't need the hopium of different things that might go up in value or not. We want things that are tied to reality. And I think this is what we're doing pretty good, all of us.
Yeah, I agree. And in your opinion, what are users actually looking for today? Like stability, collateral, yield, or something else? And what like is a broader picture? Why do you think tokenization bring more benefits than like classical ways of holding metals through banks or let's say ETFs?
Well, if I see it from my perspective, I think to say that yield doesn't play a role to an investor would be a lie. I think yield is still something that investors, of course, look at first base, but the yield itself is not been the only one. I think just it has become on par with something that you're able to say that is this yield coming from something that I can understand and that I can trust. So these are two things where I think RWA projects are going to be shining in the future because at the end of the day, you are basing everything to reality. So you're linked to something that is tangible. This means that users have the possibilities first time now to verify actually, the Bitcoin times where you say like don't trust but verify. With RWAs, you can actually do that because you can see the things transparent either on chain but also off chain. So I think this is the biggest value for users right now.
And Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think similar. I think yield obviously plays a part. I think people are just understanding why on chain so much better than off chain. They can verify things. I think people are losing trust in the traditional financial system. I think we're seeing some problems. We saw some problems in the silver market earlier in the year because ETFs are just issuing paper claims. And I think people just live on chain. I think, the AI agentic world's going to be on chain. It's not going to be transacting fiat. And then you've also got the social mobility. So people are moving around a lot. So, if I own a lot of my net worth in physical metals, I have to worry about storage. I have to worry about how I liquidate that if I want to move. Everything on chain just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I'm glad you remind us about agentic economy because it's booming right now, and it's the only way agents can work with finance using blockchain. So I definitely agree that it's important. And Usman, what do you think on this question? Because like the whole model and the whole positioning that gold in your case can also be an earned asset. So maybe you like put more attention on earning than just like holding and trust.
I think I think the reality is like the user cares about a bunch of different aspects, right? But I think the most paramount important thing is that are you giving the user something which they cannot access in their world, whether that's just the holding itself, or whether that's a new financial primitive. And I think that's kind of I would say the most important thing, because if the users are getting pretty much similar holding of the asset which they would get in Web 2, I don't think the average user care whether it's on chain or whether it's on a AWS server, frankly, right? A digital asset is a digital asset for that user. And so it's about what is it that you're able to bring to them, which makes it exciting. For holding, are you giving, maybe it's 24/7 access, maybe it's more liquidity, um, maybe it's yield, it's a new financial primitive. So I think it'll differ asset by asset, right? But I think it's about just giving the user something more than what they've had previously.
Yeah, and now I want to hear from each of you what like you're actually doing from user perspective. So, Usman, can you walk us through Oro Gold's model, like in a minute or a couple minutes, and clearly highlight like benefits for users using Oro and like what business model do you have, why it's sustainable?
Yeah, I think for us, it's always just been about giving users access to things which they haven't had before. Obviously, in countries where they cannot access gold, give them access to gold, give access to yield for most of our users. I think that's kind of been a big differentiator for us. Um, I think similarly, as we're working on some other applications, it's like not just thinking about necessarily sit on chain and how do we reach them. I think that's been key focus for us. The reality is that the most tokenized products are very similar, right? Most tokenized assets are very similar. So it's really about what assets win. And I think that's super important.
I got it. And Mark, what's about you?
Yeah, so similar to what Usman said, we're tokenizing silver, bringing it on chain, and giving it that composability for users to not only get price exposure, but then also be able to use it and pledge it as collateral. And I think that's why the big unlocks that tokenized assets give. Um, I think there's going to be much more products that stem from the actual assets over the time over the next few years. Instead of just silver or gold, it's all about what you can do with it and what other products you can build off the back of it. Whether that's a neobank backed card or whether it's yield, whether it's borrow and lend, these are all the interesting aspects that we can bring. And I think backing it by a solid asset like gold and silver just adds that level of comfort for an average investor. If you bought SpaceX at the IPO, you're probably looking pretty worried right now. I think gold and silver have had their volatility over the last few weeks, but when you zoom out to the year's time frame, the volatility is a lot less than crypto, and I think people are starting to understand that's an important part of their overall portfolio and net worth.
I got it. And Daniel, I think your model is a bit different from like the common narrative on RWA. So walk us through it.
Yes, so we have taken a little bit of a different approach, and there are certainly different ways how you can to do tokenization on the RWA basis. From us, we tokenize actually the mining capacity of our gold mine. So this is a new approach, which I think investors and in general users will find very attractive, from the simple reason that the underlying asset, I think everybody's clear about it. So everybody wants the gold, the silver, and that makes complete sense. But of course, to having the capacity or the access to the mining capacity, this has been something inherently that investors were never be able to get the real access. So by now, it has the only way you can actually do it is in a way of form of ETFs or some stock. And let's be honest, then you're just more on a speculative basis from a price point than from the underlying asset. So we said like we want to change that. We want to open up this market, and this is why we set out to do our project where we have the Ayni token and we have the gold units, which are NFT based, and both give you access to our ecosystem. With the token, you can stake and then you earn rewards, and we pay them out in Paxos Gold. And the same thing happens with the gold units. Basically, by owning them, they start generating revenue, and they are also then paid out in Paxos Gold. So I think it is very important that we have, that's why also the reason we have partnered with someone that is very big in the space. And of course, at the end of the day, you want to know that the physical gold is there and that you can access it. And that I think Paxos Gold is doing really good. And that's why we use them to distribute the rewards. And yeah, so this is our approach that we have taken. And I think that over the years, we will see similar things in the RWA space with other projects on all kinds of commodities doing something similar.
Yeah, I see the idea. And here I have a question to Usman because, like you, Daniel mentioned that Any Gold use Paxos. because like it's redeemable first of all, and it has a lot of trust. So in terms of Oro Gold, Usman, what do you do to compete with Paxos, and what benefits can you provide for projects like Ayni Gold, so they can choose you, not Paxos?
Well, I think I would actually would say that Praxis is like really best in class, and they've done like a really wanted to sort of focus on doing the best in class stuff as well. And so I think whether it's audit reports, whether it's redemption, all those stuff, we've kind of done the same. I think we would obviously love to work with projects like Ayni Gold and any of the other projects that want to work with us. Um, so I think I'm not sure if this anything can be. I mean, we can always discuss kind of what that partnership would look like, right? Uh, but yeah,
Okay, I got the idea. And let's be honest, like one of the biggest questions in this space still is trust. So, what does real transparency look like for tokenized metals, in your opinion? And I think, Mark, you can answer this question first.
I think firstly it's all about audits. But to be honest, before we even talk about transparency, it all depends on the investor as well. If you look at some of the pre-IPO stocks, they did really well, and a lot of them didn't have the backing or necessarily the one-to-one backing that potentially people expected them to have. So there's tokenized asset protocols out there that don't have the backing, don't have great audits, and people still buy them, and they're still at good TVL. So it all comes down to the investor and their risk profile and their risk tolerance. For me, I think at least being one-to-one backed for a tokenized metal is the minimum. Then daily attestation, proof of reserves on chain, audits, quarterly audits, independent audits. You can literally go as far as possible. But like I say, it all comes down to the initial investor. For me, we're trying to do things properly and trying to have solid audits in place. But Pax Gold is very strong. You look at Tether Gold. Tether Gold's a multi-billion-dollar market cap, and I would question their audits, but people don't care because they trust Tether, or they at least know Tether have got enough money. So yeah, I think transparency is super important in RWAs. I think one-to-one backing is super important. I think audits are super important, but at the end of the day, investors will go buy what they want to buy.
So this is an interesting take, and I totally agree with you. So the Tether Gold is the number one in terms of gold tokenization right now, even if like there is no full transparency there, and like taxes in this case is much stronger. But users decide finally, and like looks like final investors and users do not care so much about audits and on-chain proof. So what do
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Yeah, what do they care? Like Daniel, what do you think about it?
To be honest, I have a little bit of a differentiated take on this. And I would like to differentiate between the user who is coming maybe from crypto and is looking at it from that angle and is used to a certain amount of uncertainty, and from the perspective of somebody who is really into gold, the asset, but is now actually trying to see what other ways are there that my gold position or my gold holdings can be used, can be transferred, can be utilized, or is there any yield option? So these are two different things. And I think for one of them, okay, the crypto investor might be more risk averse and he doesn't have a big problem with intransparencies. But somebody who comes from the traditional space or is from Web 2, I would say, he's definitely going to be paying a lot of attention to how the custody is done, how the paperwork is done, how is the trust, who are the custodians behind it, how is the project actually doing the due diligence on everything. So I think we have to be able to pass as a project all this scrutiny from Web 2 or traditional finance, because if we are able to do that and provide that certain level, then it means that this market is actually maturing. So this is how I would say.
I got it. And Usman, what is your view on this? Do you think distribution is more important or transparency, or like they both go close to each other?
actually, think they go hand in hand, right? The reality is that there's two aspects of trust, I would say, right? One is more the foundational elements of, do you have the right legal structure? Do you have the right disclosures, audit, um, to build that level of trust? And so anybody who's kind of goes on your website or looks at your project is able to sort of assess that you are legitimate. I think that's number one. But I think a key important part of trust is also brand. And the reality is that when you sort of look at a project, a company which is bigger and maybe they're slightly weaker on trust, right? And slightly weaker on. I actually don't think I would like to agree. I think Tether's structure is fairly strong as well, right? So it was not like they never did audits before, but they started doing audits last year. And so I would say, both trust, both brand and the legal structure, or the, let's say, the trust structures matter a lot here. And then it can effectively lead and it's like a chicken and egg solution, right? It says the more TVL you have, the more people trust you. So your distribution allows you to have more bigger brand, and then bigger brand leads to more TVL. So it's kind of that sort of that. So I think both really matter. But the reality is that you can't put a lipstick on a pig. So I would say, like for us, if you're starting out, you don't have the brand, that's okay. It's going to take time to build that brand out. But what is important is effectively for you to do the hard work, which is really make sure that anybody who looks at your company and looks at the work you're doing is able to see that, hey, what you guys are promising exists, and this is the right structure.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question, by the way. In my opinion, it's the problem of egg and hen, and like these three points are all important. But when you start, what is much important? This is a real question. And beyond just
Yeah.
holding tokenized gold or silver, so what actually brings more adoption in DeFi or maybe in some other sources? What is your main idea and channel for distribution or use case, maybe like borrowing or using as a collateral? So who are you target now, Usman?
I think the way to think about gold as an asset is there's two main let's say there's two main or let's say three actual sort of tasks you can do is, right, you can hold it, and so there's a segment of users who will want to hold it, and you can divide that between, I would say, your gold bugs, whether it's retail or institution, or whether it's traders, right? Your gold bugs are more conviction holders, and your traders are trading in and out of the asset. The traditional crypto markets are very trader based, and so that's kind of, I would say, like one segment. Number two, I would say basically is um, Number two, I would say basically is the idea that, hey, you can earn yield on gold, and now whether it's through an off-chain sort of capacity that we're able to enable, or whether it's through on-chain ability, whether that's maybe you're doing some sort of delta neutral strategy on your gold, or whether it's you're basically running a whether you're basically running some sort of yield strategies on the asset, DeFi yield strategies. And then number three is being able to borrow it uh, as collateral. And the borrowing it as collateral is actually a very big pain point in traditional gold markets as well. And so I would say, like, all those three are quite, again, will are quite important. And they kind of also go hand in hand. The reality, though, is that you need to have a certain level of scale to be able to get your asset listed as collateral. You need a certain level of liquidity to get your asset listed as collateral. So all of these things take time as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And Daniel, you have a bit different idea of the token. So it doesn't represent the underlying asset as a metal. It produces metal, right? So what is your main distribution idea? How do you see that?
So basically, we are also looking at the point of how can this be used and utilized in the space. And I would say that the collateralization of it plays a fundamental role, because it opens up a really big, broad scope for users, and it creates also a lot of liquidity. So let's be honest, when somebody earns and pristine assets such as gold, then he doesn't want to sell immediately. He wants to hold it and be able to lend against it. So either because he's deciding to, or because he has to in order not to sell the metal. And I think crypto and the DeFi space has enabled a huge possibility on that. And I think it's completely underutilized so far, because I don't see really anybody opening up gold vaults to be able to use as collateral, and then using the USDT or USDC for all kinds of other things, to spend them or to reinvest them. So I think there's a big potential still there. And inherently, coming from an industry which it has been very volatile, I think having an anchor, which is going to be gold and gold backed, is going to be very crucial in this, because it just reduces the volatility. And from our perspective, of course, we are not one-to-one backed, but we have the reward mechanism, which is paid out in Paxos Gold, and the users will want to do something with it. So we will have to be able to offer a lot of interesting yield products or other utilities that they can then use for it. So this is what we've been working on.
I got it. And Mark, in your opinion, like what will help you with distribution? And like I know that first of all, Tether Gold is most popular in the space because of perpetual trading, but there is no native crypto asset right now for silver. So, do you target this market as well, or not yet?
I think in terms of distribution, I think one thing everybody needs to uh, accept is that when you're tokenizing real world assets, they're going to have um, a lot of attention at certain times. It's not like a normal crypto coin where you can just run an incentives game and people are going to flock to it, or you're going to do an airdrop or something like that. These are kind of serious assets, and I think long term, as more institutional capital flows into RWAs, and back to Usman's point about trust and transparency. Um, then that's probably going to be the audience longer term than the average crypto person. But for me, I think distribution all comes down to providing assets, providing access, liquidity, and DeFi composability to assets that people can't get anywhere else. So for us, yeah, tokenized silver is a massive opportunity. There isn't great tokenized silver products on the market. There's not one on Solana yet. So yeah, that's obviously a massive opportunity for us. I also think um, metals are facing a bit of headwinds right now, but I think towards the end of the year they'll have another run, or maybe next year. And I think that's when a lot of attention will turn to them. And you see that with AI stocks right now. You see it with SpaceX. Everything. RWAs are going to have different times where they do really well, depending on what the macro environment's doing. I think what we want to see silver used is just a portfolio asset that you buy, hold, maybe use it across DeFi, but it's more a long-term horizon play. It's not a trade, and it's not a short-term thing. Perps is interesting. Yeah, we'll probably do a perps play at some point, but it's not our main focus.
I see. And in your opinion, what is the biggest blocker for tokenized metal to scale right now? Like, is it liquidity, regulation, user experience, trust, or maybe something else? Because current valuation of the whole commodity market on chain is $4.5 billion, which is like top 20 coins have. So, what is the bottleneck? Mark, let's
Is that
start
for
with you.
me? I think there's multiple. I think right now we're still in a very speculative phase where people are still wanting to speculate on number go up, 100x's, things like that. That's why we saw so much interest in the pre-IPO stocks. People are still traders and speculators, and I think, like I said, right now, metals maybe just don't have a huge focus. I think compliance is always going to be a massive challenge and a massive hurdle. But if you are regulated or compliant and you can do more to bring institutional capital, then that's obviously going to be a bit of a moat long term. And then I think there's still education on RWAs on how to use them. I was talking to a vault provider today, and you know, you could buy MicroStrategy or STRC right now, you can loop it and you can earn almost 50% yield. Fine. The average person doesn't know how to do that. The average person walking along the street doesn't know how to buy a tokenized asset, doesn't know how to loop it, doesn't know how to borrow against it, and probably doesn't care. So I think making products that are easily to access, they are easy to understand, and provide some benefit. I think that's the challenge right now, and I think crypto's still too crypto, even with RWAs, and we need to make it as simple and as easy for the average person to use, not just the crypto natives.
So let's say user experience is still the bottleneck. And Daniel, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I fully agree on that. I think the compliance part always plays a big role, of course, and the trust point is always there. And I think again that with RWAs, this will be a little bit easier than with other types of projects that we have seen. But I think the biggest point is, and I think speaks for all of us, we're trying inherently to address to a market that, especially gold, silver, if we speak from the traditional investor, they have not been educated, or they have not had the capacity also to participate in this ecosystem. This is something very new, something very non-familiar to them, that is moving very fast, and they just know the underlying product, but they have to be able to find a way with a very good understanding, clarity, and a lot of good UX and UI design to understand how the products work and how they can actually use them. And I think for all of us, especially for us, a very good indicator is try giving your uncle or somebody a bit of an older generation the product in his hands when it's still in development phase, and make him use it and try to see how he's coping with it. This has for us also been a very good indicator if something is working or not, and you can then optimize from there instead of waiting for the users to do this for you. So I think, yeah, this plays a big role, and this will be the biggest challenge moving forward in this space.
Yeah, that's a really great indicator. So ask your friends and parents to use it, and
Mhm.
then you can see the real issues. Okay, and Usman, from your perspective at Oro Gold, what do you see as a main bottleneck?
Um, I think the male bottleneck is, I mean, challenges, right? I can sort of say from our side, right? Um, is that most tokenized products feel the same. So how do you win when when your products are very much kind of similar? I think that's kind of a big sort of a big challenge here. Is you could have 10 variations of a tokenized gold product, and who ends up winning? So I think that's number one. Number two, I think, is that we still need to do a lot of work in terms of building trust, in terms of building distribution, with the eventual users, and because sometimes I think we end up losing users a lot about when we get into a lot of the complexities of how the markets work. So I do think like the future of tokenized assets is not really the user's not, and as I said, the user's not going to care whether it's tokenized or not. It's just about bringing crypto abstracted ways. Sorry, just bringing all the benefits and features of what we're working on in crypto abstracted ways to them. So it's interesting because I think what you guys have with Ayni Gold, it's like the simplest thing would be, it's like the user doesn't really, it should just be, hey, like maybe the user opens Robinhood and they're like, hey, you have an opportunity to invest in a gold mine and earn a yield on that. That yield is obviously distributed via token, but frankly, they don't really need to care if it's a token or not. So I think that's where we need to get to, where we simplify everything that kind of is happening into a very easy form.
Yeah, I agree. And such use cases can also help to improve the overall situation with commodity market, which is shrinking now. Like we were on 5.5 billion, so now we are 4.5 billion. So we lost around 1 billion in total value. I believe like not because of users came out from from tokenized metals, but because metals lost in price around 25% from the beginning of this year. And I have another question for you guys. So, what is like your roadmap for next 12, 18 months? Maybe some uh, main milestones that you want to achieve and key metrics that you will look at. So, Daniel, let's start with you.
So for us, a very big push now that we had is the gold units, which we just launched as of last week. And yeah, we're looking, of course, to expand that ecosystem. Very important. It has also become apparent that obviously users want to be able to use their apps in terms of like a kind of let's say a financial hub, I would say. So when you have already earning rewards somewhere, you want to be able to spend them also. You want to be able to do stuff with them. So this is something we've been seeing from the community and that we're actively addressing now. So to be able to having an additional integration with a card payment, for example, where you can then have your gold and you can spend it, or maybe in the future, this is also something, as we already discussed it, having it potentially as a collateral, and then you can borrow against it. I think these are pretty good gateways that enable this. And yeah, so in terms of other features, of course, now everything for our side is being expanding our current concessions and being able to expand our mines. And this is a big focus for us. So we will be having, of course, also the app within the App Store. This is now a very big target. So we're building this actively now so that the users are able to see their rewards and their positions and everything within the App Store. I think this is a very intuitive and good way how to access your holdings. And yeah, so this is our primary focus right now.
Got it. And Mark, what success look like for you in 12 months?
Well, we're not live yet, so we're launching the token in July. Um, the silver token will be live on Solana by the end of July. I think success for us is really just about growing our brand, growing our exposure, and obviously TVL hopefully as well. I think of silver launching, but for now we're just super focused on getting the token live and growing our brand. I think borrow and lend, yeah, borrow and lend, potentially some yield products, things like that. We will announce in due course.
I see. And Usman, for Oro Gold, what is the picture?
So we've been live for a while. We're now, I would say, going through a period of just learning a lot of what's worked, what's not worked well, and so we're reassessing quite a few things at this point in time. But really, the focus is always going to be in the bottom line, which is, hey, let's grow the gold token value, let's grow the number of users, and let's get this, and let's build interesting products on top of it. And so that's the North Star, and that's always been, and just now trying to figure out how to do that.
Got it, thanks. And I expect the answer on this question, but I will ask. So, in your opinion, what has a bigger potential in terms of price growth, silver or gold? Like, let's say for next 12 months. Usman, let's start from you.
Honestly, I would probably say silver. Silver's quite down right now. I think gold is obviously down as well, but like I would say silver probably. I mean, I think we're gonna see prices, get back to what they were
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But I think silver's just silver just has a lot more volatility sometimes. So I think if I wanted to make more money, maybe if I want to keep my goal, my money safer, it's probably gold. But I think if a bit more money, maybe silver.
Okay, that's interesting. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Usman's spot on. I think silver has the volatility. I think that's why we think it's quite exciting to the crypto crowd. I think silver's got massive upside over the next probably 12 to 18 months. I think gold will do well as well. But I think the difference with these assets is 12 months is quite a short time period for gold and silver, and I think when you look out 5 years, gold's going to be far above $10,000. Silver will be 150 to $200 easy, because they're going to keep printing money and the macro world's going to get worse, not better. So I think long term now it looks very bright for both. But yeah, short term I would say silver's got more upside volatility. Uh, and But yeah, I think gold will do pretty well as well.
Okay, yeah. I love the numbers you mentioned. And what about Bitcoin? So, should we rotate the capital from Bitcoin to gold and silver?
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point. I think we're moving into a world where you should 100% buy and hold hard assets. And I think gold, silver, and Bitcoin, if that was all you allocated your investment portfolio to, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you will do very, very well out of it. I think, um, yeah, it's a hard asset environment we are in and will remain in for the next 5 to 10 years.
Cool. And Daniel, what's your point on this?
Yeah, it would be funny if I take a contrarian view now on this. Of course, we're all, I think, very bullish on the price action of the metals, and I think that in general, of course, from the already mentioned, silver usually moves faster once the reversal comes. But I think a healthy diversification is always good in all types of assets. But yeah, I think also we're watching it live how the financial system is kind of shifting in front of us. And I don't know if that much we're talking about monetary inflation in terms of like the values are not rising. It's just the numbers that are changing because what we measure which is fiat USD dollar, is just devaluing so fast. So that number go up anyway, and I think we can see that in stock markets like I don't know Venezuela or other countries that hyperinflate. So I think we will be seeing over the next 10 years something a bit similar. And owning hard assets, as already said, I think is the way to go. So or the production to hard assets.
Yeah, that's even better. And I also believe that we are near the next commodity boom. And of course, because of a lot of money supply and printing money by governments, we see the inflation is going up. Also, geopolitics wars add some value for commodities. So yeah, I agree with all these points. And personally, I also believe in gold, in silver, in Bitcoin, and I think it's a great part of the portfolio. So before we end today's discussion, which is almost 1 hour already and very insightful, I'd like to ask you guys, maybe you want to add something in the end, or maybe you have questions to ask to your colleagues. So, Daniel, let's start from you.
So from our side, I think we covered already pretty much a lot of things. I'm very happy to being able to be in the space. What would definitely interest me is or maybe this can be in a future discussion, more into the different ways that everybody sees what kind of utility maybe on the DeFi space everybody can actually bring to the table. Because I think this is something going to be where creativity is still needed, and that can give upspring to new ideas, new companies, new ways of being able to distribute and help users utilize on their assets. So this would be something that I would be down to discussing again in the future.
Okay, great. Mark, what about you?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? It was breaking up my end there.
Yeah, like the question is simple. Before we end, maybe you want to add something or ask any question to the colleagues.
Great. To be fair, we've been speaking to Ayni and me and Usman, sorry, from Oro. I've known each other for a while, so I don't have too many questions. I think just stay tuned to our socials. We'll announce the date for going live very soon. Appreciate you having us on, and I'm excited for the tokenized gold and silver markets to really kick off later this year. I think we're going to have a really nice end of the year for both gold and silver.
Okay, well, and Usman, are you still here with us? I don't see you. Maybe something went wrong with the connection. Yeah, looks like. Anyway, so thanks everyone. This was a really great conversation and I loved it too much. So if like not all questions were covered, guys, feel free to send comments and continue this discussion. We will read all of them and answer. Follow Ayni Gold, follow Dominion, and follow Oro Gold, and also like our personal pages to get more insights and updates regarding the products and regarding the overall macro review of the markets and so on. So thanks to Usman, to Mark, to Daniel, and see you next time.
Thank you so much.